I have seen about 80% of what SEO and digital marketing as a whole remain the same. And in that, I mean the same types of tactics, strategies, because you're usually looking at data and you're compiling it and you're disseminating it all over the internet. That's what digital marketing is in its purest form. And if you take those components and you look at, well, what are those other 20% of things that are changing, and you stay on top of it, that's the key.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of the None of Your Business podcast. Sean and Lacey with you, just as we are each and every week. And just as we have each and every week, we have another fantastic episode and a fantastic guest joining us today who's going to be teaching us about all things digital marketing. But hang on, time out, because when you say digital marketing, a lot of people are like, okay, I'm skipping this one. Because listen, digital marketers, they're a dime a dozen. You can meet them at your local BNI networking group. You can find them everywhere. You can even find them. I saw recently.
No, they'll find you.
Well, I saw a yard sign the other day for digital marketing and the creation of a website. But this gentleman is very different. We're going to be talking today to Brett Lane. And specifically what we want to talk about, we want to unpack this idea of AI, artificial intelligence, and everybody's pumped about AI and all that it can do.
People aren't sure though. How do I use it? How do I integrate it in my business? What's the best way? Should I use it? So many questions.
We even saw the AI lose its damn mind there for a second, right? And it was yelling at people. It wanted to blow up the earth or whatever.
And then they had to turn it off.
Well, so then you have concerns, right? How do I do this ethically, right? I don't want to go to AI and have it, cheat. I don't want to have it, plagiarize my competition's content. I mean, all kinds of things. And so we're going to find out what's possible. Let's bring in Brett Lane. Hey, Brett. Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you as well.
So we begin every podcast with this one question to all of our guests. And, it's very important, especially as we dive in and people begin to figure out, your knowledge base and who you are. It's easy for us to fall into the trap of thinking, well, hey, that's because Brett, he's super fortunate. He's made his success on the backs of other people, or maybe his father handed him a fully functioning $100 million digital agency. Maybe it was, his connections with David Meltzer, which is where we met you. But that's usually not the case. In fact, it hasn't been the case yet. I'm waiting for somebody to be like, yep,
that actually is what happened to me. Right. Yeah. But nobody said that to us yet. Yeah.
Share with us a little bit about your journey. How do you end up, here on the None of Your Business podcast? How do you end up such a high profile digital marketer? And what are some of the pitfalls, the bumps and obstacles that you've experienced along the way and the lessons learned?
Those are great questions. So in the last 20 years, I've been on this really crazy journey in terms of digital marketing and just really learning how to decompress different things related to algorithms and such. A number of years ago, I used to work in the construction industry. And I worked for my father for about 10 years, and I was shoveling asphalt in Los Angeles. I enjoyed thoroughly doing that kind of work because I was able to get outside and focus heavily on, doing things where you could see the result of the work that you've done really, really quickly. So that led me to looking into other areas because my dad, it was 1994, my dad said, "Hey, son, you're going to take over the company. But I really feel like you should go in and you should go to college." And I said, "This is crazy. I never thought about going to college." And so he started pushing me in that direction. And I decided that, hey, I should look into it. I went to college. I went from living in Los Angeles to living in a small town in Little Rock, Arkansas. And so very crazy difference in terms of culture, shock. And then after going to school in Arkansas, I moved back to Colorado. Started working with Hertz rental cars and worked in their manager trainee program, which was a ton of fun, but it was a whole lot of work in terms of cleaning cars and such. So I think in my career as a car rental person, I probably cleaned over 1,000 cars by hand. So I'm really good at detailing vehicles. So in the last 30 years, I've had a lot of, in terms of my work ethic, I've been used to grinding and hustling. So nothing, you're absolutely right. Nothing was given to me per se outside of my dad's ability to do sales. So for a number of years, I used to go with him and listen to him speak to customers. He'd sell a deal with people on all the things to look for in terms of his construction project, making sure that realistic expectations were being met. And I got to hear him go through that pitch. And I learned how to interact with consumers in a way that, I'm talking about the, expectations, the benefits, in being able to connect with them at a very, very high level as a human being versus just, hey, I want to sell you some services. And the funny thing is my name is Brett Stephen Lane. So my dad always used to call me BS Lane. So I heard that for like a number of years. Okay, BS, get your. And I told my dad, I was like, hey man, I'm gonna sell like a madman. You wait and see. I'm gonna use these skills. So I used a lot of the stuff that I learned from him because I come from a family of 5 kids. I'm right in the middle, and I'm the most like my dad. So I was the one kid out of all of them who would go on these sales calls. None of his other kids did. And I got to learn how he talked to people and how he interacted with people. And I've just used that throughout my career. It's very interesting in terms of how I got into digital. I started in 2002, 2003. I got married in March of 2003. And I was telling my wife, hey, there's this new thing. It's Google's out and they're doing all these crazy things and I really want to make money. And she kind of started laughing and she wasn't trying to be mean, but she's like, how are you going to make money with that? And I said, there's businesses who have needs. I'm going to fill those needs. I want to make a lot of money with it. So she kind of teased me a bit. I went into consulting. She was in the banking industry. And then there was a period of about like 2004 where she was working in a bank and she had been robbed at gunpoint twice in San Antonio.
Yeah. So, and where was it?
It was in San Antonio, Texas.
So you were a bit motivated, I would imagine, after that happened, right?
Oh yeah. It was weird. I just got tired. She got tired. I got tired of her having to go to work and have like this feeling where you want to you have to go to the bathroom every hour because you're so nervous and anxious about being in your place of employment. So that was really what helped, us create our first company together because I wanted to get her out of that. So for the next, I'd say 4 years, I was working with her. So we created a company together. And then she fired me the next day because I didn't want to have a conflict of interest with the first agency I started working with. So I was like, okay, so no conflict of interest. So for the next 4 years, I literally was doing sales calls on my lunch break, on nights, weekends, to get her customers for the original agency that we started together. Because I knew that she didn't like interacting as much with customers because she's kind of quiet and she's a little introverted from that standpoint. So we worked really, I decided to just kill myself to get her customers so that she could focus on digital marketing in terms of content with SEO. So the company was born out of hardship and struggle. And here's where I had a turning point though. In about 2000 and I'd say 8, I decided, hey, you know what? She's making enough money that she's making more money than I'm making with my agency job. So we decided to quit my agency and work together. And then shortly thereafter, all the housing stuff happened and I lost 60% of my revenue like overnight. And I thought, God, this is either like the best thing you've ever done, or this is something that you are allowing me to do from my own free will. And this is not a great thing because it just exploded in my face. You both know what happened in '08, the housing market and how everything kind of turned over. So, and it took me about 6 months of grinding even harder to get us back up to revenue wise. And then once I got to that point, it was just a matter of making the right connections. And I'm a firm believer in being persistent. So I had one partnership that I was fostering with the Denver Post, and that it took me 5 years to get in the door with them. And they gave me a small project and they asked me to take a turd and turn it into a piece of gold. Like that's the only way I can describe that project. Low budget, high expectations, and I wound up taking the project and doing a really good job. I worked with Carrier and Bryant air conditioning units in Colorado, and that kind of led to more doors opening up from an agency standpoint. So I like to tell people I've been behind the scenes for 20 years with big agencies. I'm the guy that's been behind the curtains, manipulating and pushing the buttons and making sure that things are happening for huge brands to be able to succeed from a digital marketing standpoint. Back in the day, I was able to create the social media strategy for Four Seasons hotels. And it took 3 years to build it out, to get the upper management to agree to use the strategies and we're talking about like RSS feeds. Wow, nothing crazy.
So what do you, I want to know.
I want to point out to the audience, one thing that I've noticed, you and I love to hire people from the service industry, like restaurants. You know how many people have shared with us in that first question that they worked in the rental car world?
So many people over it. That's why I said, right? I looked over it and I was like, Hertz again.
Yeah. We've had Enterprise.
We've had a lot of so many
people that have worked at different rental car agents. I'm gonna start poaching people from behind the rental car
Why
desk.
not?
Sorry, go ahead.
So my question is, obviously you've been in the digital game for a very, very long time. 20 years is a long time to be doing the work, being behind the scenes. What are the biggest changes that you've seen over the 20 years, and how has it impacted maybe not the big corporations and agencies that you're talking about, but like the little entrepreneur, the people that are listening right now?
The cool part is Google and other search engines and social media sites look at data the same exact way. So they want to give small businesses the same opportunities as medium and large businesses. So they are leveling the playing field when it comes to their algorithms. So they have made it easier to compete. Back in the days, it would be, you see these really massive companies competing. So I'd say it's an interesting question in that I have seen about 80% of what SEO and digital marketing as a whole remain the same. And in that, I mean the same types of tactics, strategies, because you're usually looking at data and you're compiling it and you're disseminating it all over the internet. That's what digital marketing is in its purest form. And if you take those components and you look at, well, what are those other 20% of things that are changing, and you stay on top of it, that's the key. So you guys talked earlier about artificial intelligence, and there's some people who are running from the hills. They're scared. AI is going to ruin people's jobs and it's going to do all these horrible things. And I tell people, if you look at the technology, that's that 20% that's changing over time. And if you use it correctly and you're not trying to just create crap in terms of content, and I'm looking at AI right in this moment as just from the standpoint of like creating usable content that people can consume. And if you were to talk to Google or other algorithms, they're going to tell you that they are looking for the best ways to create good content that is usable for consumers. If you do that and you're using AI as a starting point and you have human beings reviewing it, massaging it, filtering it, and then your end result is something that is user friendly. Even Google itself says they don't have a major issue with AI generated content in this fashion in and of itself. It's just the people who are taking it and they're creating like loads of crap content. So that's what I was telling you. 80% has remained the same. The other 20% has just been a matter of staying on top of the strategies, the changes. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I continue to educate myself. Like during COVID, I had friends who were worried about COVID and like everybody worried about keeping their business up and running, especially in the service market. Internet marketing was insane. And I just decided, you know what? I'm going to push myself even harder. So I decided to take a certification program with Harvard University. I crushed that program. I was able to present it to the instructor. I created a business plan that was in relation to using multiple forms of digital traffic to send the highest converting and lowest cost traffic to a person's website. And I thought, okay, I love this topic. So then I took a course with Oxford University, and it was the same type of program. So in like a 6-month period, I was able to finish 2 high-level programs. And then I took the learnings from those 2 and said, hey, how can I take this to another level? So then I found a college in Switzerland that was in relation to digital marketing. And that was the first digital doctorate program I'd seen on the internet.
wow.
So I used what I learned at Harvard and and Oxford, and was like, I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing from a digital marketing standpoint, and I'm up to par. So why not create a dissertation combining everything that I've used in 20 years, which was cross-referenced with the Oxford and the Harvard studies, and then so I created a 98-page dissertation on the same exact type of topic of being able to use multiple forms of internet marketing to drive the right kind of user to your site at the lowest cost.
Mm.
That's incredible. Well, I don't know. Should we go into there, or should
I know. Do we go to AI?
are
Do
we
we go
going
into
to
there?
AI?
Or
Well, I got it.
Which track
Let's
do we
just stay
take?
right there for a
Yeah.
second. Because I mean, look, if you have studied this and you feel like you've come up with a solution, obviously 98 pages. Give us the summary.
Yeah.
What are some of the keys to driving the most traffic to your website at the lowest cost?
So a big thing is just being able to make sure that you're willing to test a variety of platforms.
Mm.
Being able to go in and not go crazy, because a lot of business owners will say, "Hey, I want to test." They get that shiny bell or new thing type of syndrome where oh, it's awesome. It's social media. It's this, and this. So it's really taking a look at a variety of platforms and saying, where does my consumer, where do they hang out online? If it's like a B2B, okay, I'm going to be looking at potentially Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. If it's B2C, it could be anywhere. Any of those sites, it could be TikTok, Instagram. And it's really figuring out where are they interacting. And then once you've gotten an idea as to where your customers interact, then I need to test every single platform, but at a micro level. And you start testing each one. Maybe it's organic posts through all the platforms. Maybe it's, and from a content push strategy, maybe it is looking at advertising and then saying, how do I strategically over a 90-day period look at each platform, test one platform at a time, and be able to say, what am I learning from each platform in terms of being able to, what converts at the highest rate? And then being able to say, well, I have a conversion rate of X, and every time the person clicks on an ad, it costs me Y. So what is my return on ad spend based on those factors? And then being able to trim the fat, as we say in digital marketing. You're trimming wasteful clicks, and you're not targeting phrases and things of that nature that are bringing in the most conversions. So the biggest thing is business owners getting out of their own way and not thinking that things are going to happen overnight, not being afraid to spend the money to do the testing on all the major platforms in a 90-day period. Then once you've gotten the learnings from, let's say, 2 or 3 or 4 platforms, now you can say, hey, we've already got LinkedIn down to where we're spending X and we're getting Y amount of conversions. So then they do the same thing with something like, Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or YouTube. So it's really a matter of doing all of those things you're doing slices of things at the same time over time, and you're taking anything that you've learned, just like with what you guys are doing. You create strategies for people for business, and you start putting together components of the strategy before the client knows it. They have a strategy that's working really, really well, and it's this well-oiled machine. So digital marketing is the same exact thing. It's one of the biggest key takeaways is long form content in terms of videos. So I see a lot of people doing things like we're doing here, having spectacular interviews and podcasts and chopping those up and creating content. I see other things where people will go and use AI to create. They'll say, hey, what are the top 50 things or 60 things that people are looking for in terms of Instagram marketing? And then we're able to use AI to figure out the topics. Then you can use the AI. OpenAI is a really good tool. They have a tool called Chat GPT-3, which a lot of consumers know. 4 is supposed to be coming out here. And I'm going to estimate in the next 3 months, because the last update came on my birthday on June 11th of last year. So it's easy for me to remember. 4 should be coming out soon, and it should revolutionize how content is being created. I say that.
What do you
I don't
think?
say that.
I got to stop you there because I'm curious what you mean by that. When you say you think that it's going to revolutionize, what do you see potentially coming down the pipeline, and what kind of new additions or things are they going to have available?
So right now, when you look at the way that artificial intelligence you interact with it, it's kind of like saying that you have a person who is maybe like a junior in college or senior in college, just with the way that they talk. And when 4 comes out, it's going to be like somebody who is 4 years of college or who has a master's degree or a doctorate in terms of the way that the sentence structures are created. They're looking at, I mean, you can tell the AI, like, hey, I'd like you, I used this last night at dinner. I told a person, you could literally talk and create, let's say you wanted to create an article about going back to school
Right.
and why you should do it, why it's important. You can create the article in a whimsical, funny tone in the voice of Rodney Dangerfield.
That's amazing.
Like, and the AI will go out and create the content, but you just have to feed it the prompts to say, hey, I need you to look at this, 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 and this. And like one of the gentlemen I talked to last night at another event was telling me he's creating prompts that are like paragraph after paragraph on how to create the content and where you're putting in small components. So what I mean by revolutionize is the content is going to be way more friendly. And by friendly, I mean it's easier to read. It's not just
Sure.
informational in nature. You're like, holy crap, someone's trying to sell me something, or it's just purely informational. That'll be a big piece. The other piece is they're starting to look at tools. There's another tool called Dolly, DALLE, which is an AI tool for imagery. And you can say, hey, Sean, I need you to go create an image that is, I mentioned Rodney Dangerfield, looking like he's at college with a cap and gown on that's all black with green tassels. And then all of a sudden it'll take and create a picture that looks like him and doing exactly what you just told it to do.
Wow.
And that's just the imagery component. You've got language component, image component. You've got people who are creating different software on how to do everything, how to
Right.
go out and do social media posts. So it's just going to be a matter of looking at the language and saying, how do you create more content that is as user friendly as possible? So very, very quick example with the content. My team, I have 20 writers. We're writing content every month. We write thousands of pieces. I literally have 10x'd the content that they can create on a monthly basis with AI. I've given them all tools. They're creating 10 times the amount of content, and it's costing me $0 extra to get them to do it. And the content reads really, really well because we've had a person drive the AI, and the person is able to scrub that content, make sure that it looks good, and it passes any type of artificial intelligence detection tools, because now they have those out as well.
I was just going to ask that. I was wondering, like, how at some point, how are we going to know what has been created through AI and what's actually real? So there is detection tools. There's a way to see if that's been artificially generated, or
It is, and what's funny is even the tools themselves. Like if you look at something like OpenAI through ChatGPT-3,
right.
they have a tool that's supposed to tell you whether or not content has been created with AI. I've used the tool back to back and created multiple pieces of content and tested it. And about 75% of the time, they can understand that they wrote the content that they are testing.
Wow.
So it's very strange. There's a tool called originality.ai, which is a really good tool to test. But it's funny because like you could put the content in, and it's very, very hard to figure out if it was written. If at the end of the day you write that content specifically for users to solve some kind of a problem, to be
Right.
user friendly, that's the key.
What are your
Interesting.
concerns about this? I think that a lot of people, when we get into, your market, your industry, ethical concerns of integrity, does it level the playing field, or does it open the door for people that don't really know what they're doing to, be unscrupulous and take advantage of unsuspecting clients, customers, and just public at large?
The answer is yes. Everything you just said, yes.
Right.
There's concerns for everything. Some people create content for the sake of creating content. They're filling the internet with garbage. That's one thing that we have to worry about. There's people who are people now, like you look at video. So one prime example, we have tools where you can create what's called a humitar, where it is someone like myself staying still speaking. I can record myself saying all kinds of things on video. I can put it into a tool, and then I can create text, paste the text in, and then my voice can literally read out everything from the text. That's like where you're seeing the deep fake videos where I just
Yeah.
heard something like
Right.
President Biden talking about eating ice cream and liking big old booties. It's like,
Yeah.
holy crap, this is pretty crazy. I know you guys had to have seen that on Instagram.
I
Like
did
that's
see
been going
that.
all over the
I
internet.
saw the header and I didn't actually click on it to see what it was. But now that
It
makes
was
way more sense.
it was
Yeah.
hilarious. I'm like, I like eating three scoops of ice cream and big old booties, and I'm thinking, holy crap. So you're absolutely right, Sean. There's a lot to think about, but here's the opportunity. Here's the opportunity. Someone like myself can take AI, find what the top 60 things are to do in, or 50 or whatever in any industry. I can use the AI to create the topics, create the content, create video scripts. Then I can take the video scripts and I can put them in my own words. And I can record myself for 60 minutes answering 60 questions. So now I've used the tool to create great content and it's in my words. Then I can take the content and I can tell AI, take this content and create a transcript of what I just said. Now I want you to write an article based on what I just said in that video, and I use that content as the description. I can use that article as a blog post. I can take snippets of that content, push it all over the internet. So the reason I say this is it's giving content creators who are genuine, who are going to push it out and say, hey, how do I create more content in a very unique way? And be able to do that. Because like I can go out and create, like I just mentioned, 60 new videos that are 1 minute long that are now going to Instagram, Reels, YouTube Shorts, TikTok. And when a person sees my face, they're going to say, hey, like, or they're going to say, like, is he the one really doing this video? Or is it a deep fake? And when they realize you are doing it, how much more credibility is that going to give you for your industry?
Are there deep fake detectors?
I'm going to assume that there are. I mean, they have detection tools for AI generated content. It's very, very hard in terms of being able to use it from an audio standpoint. Because right now, a lot of the tools are geared more towards taking AI and transcribing auditory content into text-based content and vice versa. So
But you said if the public realized that it was actually me, how valuable that would be. How would they realize
How would you
that
prove
it's
that?
me?
Yeah.
Well, a big thing is the AI technology is pretty good at making your mouth move up and down. But when you look at it, if you think something is happening potentially, like it's not super easy if the person's face is small. But if you have a large face on a screen talking, you can tell that it's with AI. I went to an event like when one of these tools came. There's another tool that just became popular. I came to an event and I had a woman speak and introduce myself with my voice onto the stage at the
Wow.
beginning of it. Was like, holy crap. And her voice, her mouth was moving very nicely. And I thought, I kept her a little, I had her bigger in the screen. So you could tell, like you could see it. But if you use AI from that standpoint for training sessions and you tell people, hey, this content has been generated with AI, but the person is giving you really good information, consumers are going to be a little bit more willing to work with you.
To work with it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Got it.
Wow. It's so mind blowing. I mean, obviously it's new territory for so many people and I can see the potential in it. And I think you're right. Used correctly and ethically can provide the ability to be way more efficient in your business, to get your message out in a bigger and better and faster way. It's just a matter of making sure that everybody would use it that way, which we know we can't control, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was talking with my daughter about these tools because my wife was like, "Hey, we need to go and create 20 citations for this paper. So go take these 20 pieces of content, condense them down into 5 to 10 bullet points." And I was thinking, "Holy crap! I worked like 10 hours that day. I don't really want to do this." So I went in and I plugged in everything and I told this AI tool, "Go to this page, read the page, give me 10 bullet points for what the entire page is about, make it very succinct." And I literally ran through 20 different sources. It took me less than an hour to summarize 20 different sources. So I told my daughter, I was like, you know what? You hear about, like Spider-Man, great power comes great responsibility. I was like, honey, I'm going to show you a tool. It can help you if you have writer's block or brain fog or brain funk, as they like to say. I said, but here's the kicker. There's also tools that are being used from an educational standpoint to be able to figure out if somebody is plagiarizing.
Right.
I said, so if I ever catch you using these tools, you'll lose your phone for like literally a year. I said, it's gone. She's 14. I
Yeah.
said, so
Oh, she doesn't want that. That is an
no.
absolute no, Dad.
Oh my gosh. I was like, it's a very powerful tool. Use it very wisely.
Yeah.
But I used it in a way that, we were able to create that gobs and gobs of citations. And it took me 30 minutes to look at 20 sources. And I was copying and pasting. It was AI from that standpoint can save us so much time.
So much
It's insane.
time.
Those are fantastic stuff. I think that we'll definitely have to have Brett come back
I
and
know.
and
We
share.
probably
I'd
could
love to-
talk about this forever.
Love to have him at a live event. Maybe we'll do some instruction or workshop with some of our peeps.
Yeah.
That would be very, very, very useful. Brett, how do people find out more about you or connect with you if they're interested in learning more or
Getting
maybe
help.
just diving in and getting some of your help?
Yeah. All they got to do is go to drdigital.ai and it'll point them in the right direction. I was surprised I literally was able to get that domain because everything appears so fast. So if you go to digital.ai, you'll be able to go to my site, get information about who I am, what I do, and things of that nature.
Awesome.
drdigital.ai. Make sure you check him out. His name is Brett Lane. Brett, thanks so much for sharing your knowledge with all of our viewers and listeners. Super insightful, somewhat scary, but I hope that it will be incredibly useful for everyone. We appreciate you jumping on the podcast with us.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you.
One of the really biggest concerns that I've voiced, I don't know nearly as much as Brett, but I've talked about a lot that this whole AI as Chat GPT came on the scene and everybody got excited and, the deep fakes. One of my biggest concerns right now is the upcoming election.
Right.
And, I just think that in this next election cycle, we're going to see the use of AI technology and specifically deep fakes in a very harmful and negative way. And my biggest fear is that inside of the realm of public consumption, as people are facing an important decision to make a vote for someone to run the country or run their state or even their local municipalities, that the critical turning point for me is when people actually begin to say or come to a consensus that they say, I just don't know what to believe anymore.
Yeah.
So while all this stuff is extremely interesting, I think that this is also a call for every single one of you listening to, we have to protect our minds and we have to understand that we are going to have to use discernment. You can't believe everything you see on social media. You can't believe everything that you thought that you saw on video. I mean, I really think, I got to tell you, I think that live interaction is going to come at a premium here very soon. Right? You and I talk about that live workshop. So where Brett was saying well, imagine if I was delivering content when they knew it was me. Well, the only way they could actually know it was me is that they're in the same room. But what happens is then probably in order to be in the same room with your idols, your mentors, to be in the same concert venue, that's going to now come at a premium because of course you could watch, or you could hear David Meltzer giving advice, but you don't know if that's actually
David
him
Meltzer's advice
unless you're actually in the same room with him. And I think that that's going to put live appearances at a premium. I think there's tremendous opportunity there as well. Don't feel overwhelmed by it. It's just, it's what's happening. Protect your mind. Learn to discern what's real and what's not. And for those of you that are searching for opportunity and want to monetize it, I got to tell you, live presentations, old school. You'd be like Thoreau, traveling around under a big top, sharing thoughts and philosophies and guidance and advice. That's going to be the next big thing you watch.
I love it.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of the None of Your Business podcast. We'll be back again next week. We'll do it again. We'll see if we can top this one. We're going to be hard pressed, but we'll give it a shot. Make sure you join us. Thank you guys so much.